So this is the brand new 2023 Hyundai IONIQ 6, and this is one of the most interesting electric vehicles that I have driven so far. It just gets head turns no matter where I go because it kind of looks like a Porsche on the back with its sloped design. There's tons of little modern design elements, from the wheels to little pixels. Fun fact, there's over 700 pixels implemented into this car. Now the coolest thing about this car is when you approach the doors. Usually when you approach, the handles pop out like this. They don't have that thick metal feel like the Tesla Model 3 does, but it's grippy enough that you can easily get inside. The only thing I don't like about getting into the car is this key fob, because it just makes it look and feel a bit cheap since it's so plasticky. Now you do have your folding mirrors over here. There's a camera on the bottom. These are the 20-inch Pirelli all-season tires. This comes standard with the Ultimate package, which is what this car is using. But if you pay for the more affordable options, you can get it with just a rear motor, and obviously you'll have 18-inch wheels instead. Now, the back of the car is sloped down to the ground, which helps with its aerodynamic performance. And it's very interesting because they filled up all the lights with these little pixels. And when they light up, they just look really, really, really cool. There's tons of trunk space inside of here. And you can pretty much fit, let's say, 3 pieces of carry-on luggage without any issues. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of storage underneath it. You'll get a lot more with a Model 3. I'm actually going to be comparing it a lot to the Model 3 because it's literally the same price point. You do have the ability to pop the seats down by pulling these little knobs over here. Unfortunately, they don't just fly back. You have to manually go into the back seat and pull them down yourself, which is kind of misleading because usually when you have those options, they just kind of do it automatically. But in this car, you still have to go in here and bring the seat forward. But to charge the car, the entry point is at the back right. You have the ability to unlock it with this little button over here. Here's a few more pixels. You can use your standard CCS charger, or of course it supports fast charging. This car will charge from 0 to 80% in just 18 minutes, which is pretty quick. Pop the frunk, if you'd call it that. There's a little latch inside to pop it. And then of course there's a little button you press over here. And I wouldn't call this a frunk. You could probably fit a skunk, but this is definitely not big enough to fit any luggage inside of there. Definitely not as big as Tesla's, that's for sure. So the Model 3 definitely has more storage space overall, even though technically this car is wider and longer, which is mostly dedicated to the cabin space, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Check out all the leg space you get in the back of this car. There's just tons of room for guests. Look at this. You can't put your feet underneath the seat, which is pretty standard for most electric vehicles because the battery sits so high. There's also a little bit of space between your leg and the seat, which can be kind of uncomfortable for long rides. But yeah, I'm 5'11" and I am just stretched out. Now, unfortunately, because the roof slopes, you have height directly in the middle here, but if the driver turns too fast, the distance between your head on the left side is a little bit shallow. I imagine if you're 6'2" or 6'3", you might find it a bit uncomfortable for head space. But one thing I noticed is how quick these windows go down. Well, I don't have the car on right now, so that's not working, but they go down ridiculously fast compared to my Model 3. The seats are perforated, so you'll have some good breathability in the summertime. You have heated seats with 2 levels that you can activate on your armrest. Of course, you have your window button over here. It feels a little plasticky, but I do love the design language they're going with. You have all these little holes, lines going across. It just speaks like a modern car. You have a lot of space here to store your items. A little drawer on the bottom to put tiny little bottles, but you're not fitting much in there. Your 2 vents, which are in a vertical position. I would have loved them horizontally, but who cares? You can at least adjust them. 2 USB Type-C ports. And back over here, you have a full-size plug, which you can actually use to charge your laptop. In terms of overall space, there's lots. You could easily fit 3 people here comfortably. If you pull down the middle thing, you have space for your cups. Unfortunately, there's no ski hole here, so you can't stick your skis or hockey stick through, which is kind of unfortunate. But you do have proper headrests at the back that you can adjust to any position. So now I'm joined by my lovely wife, Andrea, who's been driving the car for half the week since we've had it. And look, it is a very smooth car compared to my Tesla Model 3. We're purposely driving on a gravel road right now because the noise you get from the car is significantly less than I got with the Model 3. Like, you get into a Model 3, you hear everything. You know, like, it's gotten better with some of its iterative updates, but this car is on a whole nother level. What are some of your thoughts so far?
I like it more than your Tesla.
How dare you?
For many reasons. It's quieter. Doesn't sound like the windows are always open when you're driving. I like how smooth it is when you drive. I love the fact that you have the 2 screens and not one. Like
that is true. Like, this does give you 2 screens. They're both 12 inches each, so it's not like one big screen you have on the Tesla. But I don't know. I kind of like having no screen in front of me for the simple reason that I get to see more of the road. You know, like with this car, like I can still see everything fine, but there's still a screen in front of you.
I think it looks cheaper with 1 screen.
What?
I think this car looks more expensive than your Tesla.
I think it's a little bit subjective. But you know what? Everyone's going to feel a little bit differently. I can see why people would want the other front screen in front of them just so they can see the actual speed they're going at, as opposed to like having to look a little bit to the right. But, you know, coming from a traditional car, this is going to feel a lot more comfortable for most people. But that's one of the things I noticed right away is like how much smoother it is than my Model 3. Like you drive a Model 3, you feel everything. And I mean everything on the road. It doesn't matter how smooth the road is. There's just a lot more comfort when I'm driving. I think that's a really cool thing.
I think the only thing I don't love about this car is the comfort of the seats.
That's true. The Tesla has like those cushiony, couchy, comfortable seats. These are comfortable, like they're spacious, but you're right.
They're comfortable short term. I think long term, if you were to go on a road trip, they'd be a little uncomfortable.
I agree. Because like they're a little bit hard, and maybe over a few years they'll break in, and then they'll start to feel more comfortable when you sit on it. But I agree. Like just first impression, Model 3 seats do feel better. Now this is a very fast car. It's not as fast as the dual motor Tesla Model 3, but it's fast enough. Like I think there's around 365 horsepower, a little over 400 pounds of torque. Like you have some quick movement with this car. Like right now in sports mode, and it just flies. You know, like you get that whiplash feeling when you slam on the pedal. Not as much as you do in a Model 3, but it's more than enough to quickly surprise anybody that's beside you. Mostly for me and city driving, I'm leaving it on eco mode. Like that gives you the smoothest drive overall. But if you want a little bit more pep, but you don't want to go to sport mode, then I'd probably leave it in normal. Now the interior we're kind of squabbling over because I personally think the interior of this car looks better than the Model 3, but Andrea thinks the Model 3's interior looks more premium, which is weird because most people feel like Tesla's interior feels kind of cheap.
I think it depends on what features you're actually looking at though. So the fact that it has the 2 screens I think looks more premium. But when you look at the doors, it looks a little more plasticky than your Tesla.
That's true. I mean, like when you touch these buttons over here, like it does have like a plastic feel to it. And these capacitive buttons just don't have that like press feel that you'd get with more expensive cars. But then again, you can make the argument that you have to use one screen for everything on the Model 3.
I like the space. I like the storage is much better.
Yeah, like you have the 2 cup holders here, and then you have your wireless charging pad to wirelessly charge your phone, and then you have another bin underneath here, which just gives you so much space. Plus your middle console over here, which just gives you even more. Now there's one interesting thing about this car. If you want to connect your phone to this car, like it does support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but it's not wireless, okay? It's wired. And this USB-A port is the only port that supports data. So the 2 USB Type-C ports that are inside of here will not support data, it will only support charging. So keep that in mind. Now, it doesn't matter which IONIQ 6 you go for, they all come with lane keep assist, but the ultimate package does come with highway assist 2, which does the same things that lane keep assist does, but more properly keeps you in the middle, and it also supports changing lanes. It's not full self-driving, but if you're driving long periods of time, you have the option to allow the car to take over a little bit more.
So also, the cool thing about this car is it has 8 speakers throughout, 8 Bose sound speakers throughout. So if you want to play your music really loud,
yeah, I think the speakers sound
awesome.
Great. Yeah, they get loud, they're bright, you know, it has good sound. And plus, one thing I noticed is that the acoustics in here, because they use a lot of sound dampening, since you can't hear the highway when you're driving a lot, you just get better overall sound. I find that my Tesla, I have to really crank up the volume in order to overcome that outdoor noise, whereas in this car, I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
The regenerative braking on this car is quite good. There's 3 different levels, and there's a max level, which turns on iPedal. And iPedal basically allows you to use regenerative braking to its full potential. So theoretically, just like my Model 3, I don't ever have to use my brakes unless I'm in an emergency situation. So like if you buy this car and you get really good with it, you can essentially never have to change your brake pads.
Which I don't love. I like to keep it on level 3.
Yeah, you don't like it because
I hate regenerative braking. It makes me feel nauseous.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the things you have to practice, and over time you get better with it.
If I'm the driver, I feel okay in it, but if I'm with someone else and I'm as a passenger, it makes me feel really nauseous.
Fair enough.
I feel like it gives you a lot of like jerking movements the whole time, so I like to keep it on level 2 or 3.
Yeah. There's one thing you didn't like. You said getting out of the car sometimes.
Yeah, so only because I'm used to your Tesla. So when you get out of the Tesla, you walk away with your phone and then the car automatically turns off and locks. Your doors lock. With this one, because I got used to your Tesla, I forget to turn off the car. You physically have to turn off the car and exit. So the car will start making a really loud beeping noise every time you leave if you forget to turn it off.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? Like,
but most people come from a gas car.
It's going to feel normal to them.
So you always have to turn off the car anyways.
Exactly. And like, you know, you have Blue Link with this car, so like you could just use your smartphone to unlock and lock the doors, check up on your car, and, you know, preheat it before you drive. So you have that option as well. But yeah, when you're used to a Tesla, it's kind of like a phone. Like you just walk away, you forget about it, and everything locks up. I've really enjoyed my time with the IONIQ 6. It's a fantastic ride. Very smooth, performs very well. It has all the features you'd want. It may not be as tech focused as the Tesla or have the charging infrastructure, but I feel like that's quickly coming ahead. Either way, if you have any questions about it, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to see more videos like this.